I want to talk again about what's going on with the Perth Mint because I am getting hammered online for my association with the Perth Mint and recommending unallocated silver or gold at the Perth Mint. And I've already addressed this in a previous podcast, but I was reading some stuff online and it keeps saying that Peter Schiff refuses to address the Perth Mint issue. I didn't refuse to address it. I addressed it. These critics refuse to acknowledge the fact that I addressed it. Now, I think one article I was reading, hey, I listened to Peter Schiff's podcast and he said nothing about the Perth Mint. Well, I'm not addressing the Perth Mint controversy on every single podcast. I addressed it once. So if you didn't listen to that podcast, then you didn't get my explanation. But to simply say that, hey, I didn't explain it on a particular podcast, I'm not going to talk about the Perth Mint every time I do a podcast. But I'm going to do it again on this particular podcast. So if any of these critics are saying, hey, I'm refusing to address this controversy, I'm not. And it really isn't a controversy. It's a conspiracy theory that is wrong, right? People are making a big deal out of the fact that some people who have unallocated silver at the Perth Mint, when they're trying to have their silver fabricated and delivered, that the Perth Mint is saying you're going to have to wait a long time to get it. There's going to be a delay in the fabrication and the shipment process. And now all of a sudden, this is a big deal. This is not a big deal. This is happening all over the place. As I just said, I want my golf cart, and the golf cart company is telling me, well, yeah, you can get it, but you're going to have a big delay, much longer than would normally have. And the same thing applies. And I said this on that last podcast to Schiff Gold, right? If you want to buy physical silver right now at Schiff Gold, pay for it and have it delivered, you're going to wait a lot longer to get that silver than you would have waited before COVID. Every business is having the same issue where you don't have the product, you don't have the inventory, and so customers have to wait. And so the fact that they're waiting to get their silver, well, that's no different. And you have to remember, when you have unallocated silver, you receive a huge savings to have unallocated silver. Look, everybody that works with the Perth Mint has a choice, right? You can have unallocated or you can have allocated, right? It's up to the customer. But if you want allocated, they will take particular silver and put it in a deposit box with your name on it. And they will hold the silver in however you want it. They'll hold it in bars, they'll hold it in coins. It's right there. And yes, if you want that silver, it's a lot easier to get because it's already there waiting for you. But you have two things that you have to cover: the cost of fabricating the silver and the cost of storing it. If you just go for unallocated, you avoid both. And if you think about it, right, let's say somebody wants to buy $100,000 worth of silver. If you want it in coins, you're not going to get $100,000 worth of spot silver because there is a cost to produce the coins or the bars. And so you're going to have to pay that cost. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that you only have $95,000 worth of silver and $5,000 went to cover the cost of making your 1 ounce silver coins or whatever. So you spent $100,000, you got $95,000 worth of silver were you to melt down those coins. Well, if you just buy unallocated silver and you could just say, hey, I want $100,000 worth, don't bother to make me some coins, now your entire $100,000 goes into silver. Now, if at some point in the future you just decide to sell the silver for cash, well, you got to make a greater profit because you didn't actually need the coins. If you don't actually take them into your possession, if they're being stored by a third party, well, why pay for something that you don't need? So just buy the silver and maximize the money that goes into silver. Oh, and because you do that, they're not going to charge you storage. Now, why are they giving you this for free? Because they're using your silver to make coins and bars for other people. But the silver is always there at the Perth Mint, right? They get a bunch of silver delivered to them, and now they have orders for coins and bars. So they take some of your silver and they make coins and bars now so that when they get new silver in, they can deliver that silver. It basically helps them manage their inventory process. They get free use of your silver. In exchange, you get free storage at their facility. but they are audited. And so they have to have the silver on premises at all times. So it's not fractional reserve. There's nothing funky going on there. I have been working with the Perth Mint for almost 20 years, and I've never had a single issue where a customer who had unallocated silver was not able to sell their silver and get their cash, or have their silver fabricated and delivered out to them. Now, I tell people, if you think you're going to want the silver delivered, don't even use the Perth Mint. Just go to Schiff Gold and buy the silver and have it delivered right now. The Perth Mint is ideal for people who don't want the silver in their own possession. And I recommend, and I've done this from the beginning, people need to diversify where they have their precious metals. You should 100% have some precious metals physically with you in your own self-custody, right? And that's where Schiff Gold comes in, right? They'll ship you the gold, and now you can custody it yourself, and the silver. But depending on how much you're going to keep in silver, if you're keeping hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in silver, you don't want all that silver in your basement. You got to have other places to store it. And so the Perth Mint is one of those places where you can keep the silver that you're not going to store yourself. Now, there are other places you can keep it. You could diversify, but there's no reason not to include the Perth Mint as part of that diversification. They are a very reputable institution in Australia. There's all sorts of safeguards, and it is a good program because silver, unlike gold, is bulky and expensive to store. If they give you a free way to store silver that you never intended to take possession of, that's a good idea. But if at some point in the future you decide that you actually want that silver, well, now you've got to pay the cost of fabricating it. But if you decide that you want it in a pandemic when there's a big backlog and now you have to wait several months longer than normal to get it, well, that's part of the cost of all the benefit that you earned over the years of not being charged for storage or not having to fabricate the coin sooner. But to somehow make out that this is a conspiracy, that they don't even have the silver, that somehow I'm defrauding people, I'm part of the fraud by scamming people into buying the Perth Mint. Again, I've been doing it for 20 years. Now, in case some people don't understand the relationship, but Euro Pacific Capital, which was my broker-dealer, was a authorized distributor of the Perth Mint. So we were able to sell the Perth Mint certificates in the US or around the world and introduce people through the Perth Mint. Now, I sold my broker-dealer a few years ago in conjunction with my move to Puerto Rico. So I no longer own what used to be Euro Pacific Capital. The new name of that company is Alliance Global Partners. Now, Alliance Global Partners has a division of reps that used to work for Euro Pacific Capital. They now work for Alliance Global Partners, but they are in a division that retained the name Euro Pacific Capital. But it's no longer Euro Pacific Capital Inc. It's just Euro Pacific Capital. That's why it reads on the website, Euro Pacific Capital, a division of Alliance Global Partners. That is the new name of the BD that I used to own, but which I sold. Now, what I do with Alliance Global Partners is my strategies get implemented through the Euro Pacific Capital division. I act as the chief economist and global strategist for that division, and that division utilizes my mutual funds, and they offer separately managed accounts, which are managed by my company in Puerto Rico, Euro Pacific Asset Management, through a sub-advisory agreement with AGP. So Alliance Global Partners now is the authorized dealer for the Perth Mint, right? So when I sold the broker-dealer, I also sold the authorized dealership from Euro Pacific Capital to what is now Alliance Global Partners. So even though I don't own it, and so I am no longer an authorized dealer directly, I am still promoting it, and I'm promoting it because we've had no problems. I still think that the Perth Mint is a good way to have some of your silver and gold, and I have silver and gold there myself, mostly silver, but I have my own metals on deposit at the Perth Mint, and I'm not concerned at all that the metals aren't there. I'm not concerned at all that I won't be able to get them. But that doesn't mean I'm telling people, if you look at some of these critics, hey, Peter just wants people to buy at the Perth Mint. No, I don't. I got Schiff Gold. I'm constantly promoting Schiff Gold. How often am I telling people to have physical gold and silver in their possession? I'm doing that all the time. So I'm not trying to discourage people from actually taking possession of gold and silver. I am encouraging people to do that. But I am also encouraging people to diversify and have some of your gold and silver outside of the country. One particular reason for that is, what if you have to flee, right? What if things get so bad in America that you have to get out? And what if it's illegal to take your gold and silver out of the country? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to leave with nothing, knowing that you have some gold and silver stored outside of the country? So once you leave the United States or escape, whatever it is, you can then go and get your gold and silver from that storage facility and not be broke. Even though you left with nothing, you're able to get the gold and silver that you have stored outside the country.